Okay, hi everybody. It's great to be here for this webinar organized by EC Council. Today we are going to talk about the IoT security from kind of a more personal perspective. This is a very important topic, especially today. We see exponential growth of this type of technology everywhere. And every organization now is considering adoption of IoT strategies across the globe, and unfortunately, security is not really properly addressed. And we may also talk about the crisis of IoT security, physical cyber devices, as they're called today. So that's really important discussion that needs to be carried out, and I hope that this webinar is going to be interesting for you. So just a few words about myself. My name is Boris Goncharov. I'm a VP strategy at AMATAS, a company based in Sofia, Bulgaria. And I've been doing this type of a work in cybersecurity for the last 16 years. So I really would like to share with you my experience in this interesting profession, ethical hacking more specifically, and strategy and everything that comes with cybersecurity nowadays. Ethical hacking by itself is quite interesting. I would like to call it profession, although it's a relatively young type of a thing on the market, but it's quite interesting. And the interesting part of this is not the actual, let's say, act of doing something in order to test systems or stuff like that, but moreover, it's about understanding how things works and how things can be, let's say, broken, if you might say. So it's about understanding the flaws, the vulnerabilities in any given system. Traditionally, this type of activities being associated with IT, information technology, hacking, computers and websites and stuff like that. But today, it's not about IT anymore. It's about every piece of device that's connected to the internet and provides any useful service to us and to our businesses. So really, ethical hacking is about understanding how to break these systems in order to fix them, which sounds kind of interesting, but that's the main purpose of that. So today, as I said, we're going to be focusing more on IoT than something else, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is kind of a global field of technology that needs to be properly addressed. But anyway, so let's kick off. I'm going to also would like to share with you during this presentation also my personal experience with IoT security. So it's not going to be only about what's happening in this field for the last years, but also it's going to be about my personal point of view and my experience, and the reason why I'm so interested and so, let's say, focused on cybersecurity today. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, there is a very interesting question that keeps pop up on everywhere, on every conversation almost that I had with my colleagues and with my friends and with my, let's say, with our customers. It's about whether you should know about everything, basically. Is it not better if you don't know about these problems? Is it not better if you just forget that this problem exists in security and pretend that they're not really affecting you in any way? So the question is ignorance bliss, sort of? So security is quite complex. So people start to asking this question. Okay, now nowadays it's so complicated that people really don't want to think about this complexity. They want just to forget about it. They just want to live their lives and let's say implement new technologies and forget about these implications of using that technology. Well, the narrative is about something like, if I don't know if something exists, it will not hurt me. And this goes for security. The problem with this approach is that, well, it may sound really tempting to go through this road, but from another perspective, it's also related to kind of a cutting costs in security and try to avoid, spending money on that problem. This may sound kind of tempting, but the end can be quite dramatic actually. And, because if you do not invest in security, if you don't consider security as a part of your overall business strategy, well, the end consequence is going to be really dire. So it's not about whether ignorance is bliss, it's about how much I should know about this problem and what I'm supposed to do about it. Well, we as humans, we like technology.
I found this on the web.
We like technology. We're fascinated by technology. We're fascinated by this gadget that we want to buy for ourselves and for our business and family. We just love this technology. We want to make our lives easier. We want to make to use this technology to improve everything we do, to improve our way of living. So whatever something new comes from the market, we are ready to buy it, basically. We want to invest in this. We want to be excited about it. And we are ready to take this bet, but we rarely think about the consequences of such choices. We just want to have that new great gadget. And very rarely we are thinking about the implications. Well, from one point of view, what can possibly go wrong with this type of technology? For instance, this one here. It sounds weird type of technology, isn't it? It's something that, it's very useful. I'm not sure whether it's useful, but it claims to be useful. It's a smart bottle, basically. So it's a very important piece of technology. I'm not sure how our ancestors lived without it before us. Probably they were really suffering greatly without that piece of technology. And this technology particularly, of course, is connected to your mobile apps and stuff like that, but the only purpose of this technology is to remind you to drink water. And that's it. And if you forgot to drink water, it starts to glow in a specific color that you choose. And, and that kind of not force you, but remind you to drink 8 glasses of water. Because somebody said at some point that that's the exact amount of water the human body needs. And that's why, of course, some companies wanted to develop this technology to facilitate this idea and to make sure you'll not forget drinking water. I am aware of different technologies, kind of a biomechanical technology in the human body that constantly reminds you if you need something, but maybe this technology is greater. Maybe this will allow you to improve and become a better human, I don't know, but this is just an example of where things are heading. Of course, this is connected to the internet, and of course, here's a mobile app and everything else. So it's quite important, I guess, for everybody. Let's see another example here. So that's a very important piece of technology as well. That's a smart, let's say, brush. Well, that's very important. As you can guess, it's the smart thing about this smart brush is that keeps track of the way you're brushing your hair, the speed, let's say the aggressiveness of this action, and it's quite fascinating actually. You can benchmark yourself to others. It has a microphone integrated in the brush, so it kind of listens for the way you're doing that. So if you're doing this too aggressively and too quickly, this can damage your hair. So this actually creates a benchmark and a baseline, and this is analyzed every time you're doing this, and it gives you great results. And you can see every day, the score if you're pushing your hair, and you can take countermeasures if something goes wrong, if you don't do this correctly. So it's very important technology. Again, this is connected to the internet. You have a mobile app to kind of manage this technology, and to see the benefits as well. Another example, I'm not sure what we can do without it. How are we going to live without this great smart egg holder? Well, have you ever wondered how many eggs you have in the refrigerator, let's say? Well, you don't have to guess anymore. This great technology shows you the exact amount of eggs you have in your refrigerator. Very important piece of information again. There are some smart refrigerators actually that can do this for you. They also can give you other information, of course, and can keep track of the goods that you're storing in the refrigerator. Some other useful piece of information. You can read the news on the screen of the refrigerator stuff, very important stuff. But this one, that's fascinating. You have a mobile app. It displays the exact number of eggs. It can be connected to Alexa and to other, of course, appliances, and it can automatically, place orders for new eggs and stuff like that. So really, again, very important piece of technology that you cannot live without in your daily life, in your busy daily routine. Another example for young parents. This sounds looks really weird, but actually this solves a particular problem. And this problem is that, you have to know when your baby have a number 1 or number 2, let's say. So imagine you're a young parent, you don't know what to do, basically, and you're struggling to understand how to deal with this young human, small human. So this one here helps you and actually informs you when your baby is number 1 or number 2. You guess what this means, probably. So you put this on a diaper, basically. It has a microphone inside, and as soon as this happens, you receive a notification on your mobile phone, and you know what to do, basically. Or if you don't know what to do, it can give you a guided, kind of a guideline, steps involved and stuff like that. It can educate about how to properly handle this situation, which it's quite complicated. Sometimes can be very, very difficult to handle. I'm sure that the young parents will appreciate that. But again, there are various types of this technology existing. There is something called P-tweet. P-tweets, basically your baby pees, you receive a tweet and stuff like that. You can broadcast to the entire universe if you like. So it's really important. I'm thinking about another mechanism in the humans that can inform you when your baby has this problem or this kind of situation. Your senses, basically, you can very easily detect if something is present in the diaper. Believe me, I've been there. I know what I'm talking about. Human sense is a very effective way to detect this type of things. Well, let's see what else we can do with smart technology, right? Just a second. Okay, so there we go. This is a smart faucet. So you may wonder, why on earth you're gonna need a smart faucet for? I can give you exactly the reason. Imagine that you're baking something, you're covered with flour or something like that, and you cannot touch your faucet because you're gonna get a mess. So you can use Alexa here. Say, Alexa, turn on my faucet. And this smart technology will give you exact amount of water without even touching that. So you can talk to your faucet, basically. Talk to it, you can instruct it, you can do really amazing things with that. It can precisely, dispense the exact amount of water needed for particular stuff. That can be kind of useful in some situations, maybe not wasting water and stuff like that, for instance. But just voice commanding your faucet is kind of a weird idea, I guess. But these new things, keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. We're kind of, let's say, saturated by it in our societies nowadays. Well, maybe because of the COVID pandemic, we started to forget about these things, I guess, and we focus on more important things. But this issue, this problem will continue to kind of exist. If you want to see more, you can check out the Computer Electronics Show in Vegas. Every year they're presenting consumer electronics kind of stuff every year, where things are heading. You're gonna see amazing new things. Well, but this is the problem, isn't it? With this kind of a new technologies coming everywhere, the question about security persists, and the question is how these new things are really protected. There were various cases in which this technology were, of course, compromised. All of these things that I showed can be hacked and can be compromised. Well, you may ask, okay, what's so bad can happen if somebody hacks to my smart faucet, let's say? What can go wrong? Well, not really much, but imagine that the kind of if this is hacked, it can dispense, let's say, hot water, for instance, instead of cold water. It can actually harm you. Well, this is okay, this is harmful, but the impact is going to be that great, let's say. But we are forgetting that smart technology is not about this, only about this gadget. It's about our critical infrastructure, it's about security, it's about everything we do. Of course, smart cars, stuff like that, computer industrial control system, operational technology. Again, it's quite important, of course. It's part of this cyber physical world that we're living in. And the more of this stuff we have in our environment, the more exposed we are to threats and to problems. So it's not just about this funny stuff that we can buy. It's about far much more greater and complex problem that needs to be solved. And a lot of people, again, they are thinking about this and say, listen, okay, but the vendors and manufacturers of this technology probably took some precautions, right? They implemented cybersecurity measures, and they probably kind of, let's say, secure this for us. Because let's face it, the common user is not really a cybersecurity expert, isn't it? He's not supposed to understand the complexity of this technology, although it's not really, it can be complex, but can be very simplistic in nature. But is everybody supposed to know how to protect these devices? It's an absurd idea. So you cannot rely on user discretion all the time. Well, we keep saying that people are supposed to, protect their office accounts, and they're supposed to protect their email addresses and change their passwords and stuff like that. But with this kind of things, that's not in your hands, more or less. Of course, some part of these things, of course, it's related to the way you're using. So user has specific responsibilities for that, but overall, it's up to the manufacturer. It's about who's kind of developing these things, really. And it's in his hands to properly secure that. But you see, that's the problem, because companies are not born with the idea of being secure. They are doing this because it's a huge market that needs to be kind of addressed from a business perspective, not from a security perspective. So our, let's say, hope that these companies are going to, let's say, address security for us, it's kind of unrealistic. Even for more, let's say, kind of essential type of technology, operational technology, control systems. Even in this case, we do not see security. We see flaws, we see problems. We don't see strong, defenses. So the problem is there. And one of the examples that happened in recent memory is this one. So you may wonder, is this kind of a new tattoo that I'm planning to do on myself? Well, not really. This is a Japanese word. It's called Mirai. And Mirai stands for the future. If you remember, this was now 4 years ago. Amazing how time flies when you get fun. We have fun with security. But This Mirai, if you remember, was the one. It was a kind of a very, it's really huge DDoS attack. But it's not. It wasn't. The interesting part was not, but it was a DDoS attack against DIN provider, and the internet almost stopped because of that attack. The interesting part of this attack was, if you remember, was that it was using a lot of IoT technology to be performed properly. So Mirai botnet was predominantly constructed out of these smart technologies, right? And this is the interesting part. This was the first time in history, well, at that scale, of course, that IoT devices were used against specific targets in IT infrastructure. That's why it's called Mirai, the future. Well, now we are in that future. And what we see today is, of course, that this problem persists, but it evolves as well. Mirai botnet, again, is mutated as a virus. And now you can see the codes here and there. You can see how this actually was utilized in a different ways it was intended. And that's the problem. As soon as you have something in the wild in a form of a code, it can be quite contagious. It can also spread and mutate like a real virus, like a COVID virus. It can infect more and more and can cause more damages everywhere. Of course, everybody also remembers the Stuxnet attack. And in many ways, these things are like Pandora's box. As soon as you have them on the wild, you cannot longer control them. So, and they keep evolving and become more and more dangerous. Now, when it comes to physical devices like this, we show the next step is going to be ransomware for cyber physical systems, let's say, and other implications that can arise from that. So this problem is evolving. If you remember, this is a kind of a picture. Of course, it's a very kind of a, let's say, conceptual visualization of this attack, but you can see the intensity of the attack against US infrastructure. And again, predominantly this attack was using IoT devices. What kind of IoT devices? Security cameras, security systems, smart fridges, smart TVs, stuff like that. In most cases, you're running Linux operating system or kind of a form of Linux operating system with, of course, security flaws in it. Because the vendors, again, they are thinking about products. They are not thinking about security. How this was carried out, how this was possible, well, this is just an example of the way this was actually carried out. As you can see, this is a table with default username and password and manufacturers of these devices. Again, IoT is not about stupid things like smartphones and other dumb things that we just saw in the beginning. It's far much more essential things like security things, right? Security cameras, security DVRs, NVRs, stuff like that. As you can see, we have major producers, Axis, IP cameras, let's say, Dahua, Chinese manufacturer, one of the leading manufacturer of security technology, Hikvision, stuff like that. A lot of them. So all these things had sometimes hard-coded username and passwords. As you can see, root, pass, admin 1234556, stuff like that. So it's about really dumb problem, right? You may ask yourself, why is this there? I mean, why we see these default username and passwords? Maybe I can tell you why. It's more convenient, more easy. That's why. We just release something on the wild. Of course, it's up to if we're talking about cameras, it's about, of course, the company installing that camera or you installing that camera and stuff like that. It's up to you, the dear user, to fix that problem, to choose complex password to kind of connect this device to a protected network and stuff like that. But really, how many end users can really, well, do this in an efficient way? Of course, you may say, okay, they can change the password. Yes, they can, but it's not only about passwords. This is 4 years. This was 4 years ago, right? And now the problem is evolving, and the problem becomes more persistent than ever. If you're interested into examining the Mirai source code, you can do this in GitHub. That's the link you can follow. So if you're fascinated by this, and you can examine that, it's quite simple actually. You can see it, you can construct your own. Of course, don't do that. Ethical hacking is about, testing. It's not about causing any harm. So whatever you do, and this is what we are teaching everywhere and preaching about it, we are security researchers. We are not trying to cause any harm. We're trying to fix the problem, not to cause it. Something that we do in our CSeCoE trainings for ethical hacking and other security trainings. Never ever cause harm. Never do something without the permission. That's the key here. Because if you do that, you're crossing the invisible line and becoming, the opposite of what you're trying to protect, basically. So this is just to, if you're more curious about it, you can examine the code. You can see how it works. And of course, you can draw your conclusion out of that, but I can tell you, by the way, it's quite simplistic in nature. It basically scans internet for IoT devices with default username and password. Then you have a command and control, and you can point these devices at any given moment to a specific target. And you can cause a massive denial of service attack, like what happened in 2016, right? Okay, so let's move forward. Well, this question, again, it's like the first one. The second one, why should this concern me? And I hear this a lot. I hear this coming from regular users, which is something they can understand. But I hear these questions coming from executives of the companies, from business people. They say, okay, well, it happened, right? I mean, somewhere in the world, it happened. I don't care. What's so bad? What's so wrong happened? Really, internet was kind of we had a problem with Salesforce or other applications during that time. We were not able to log in for a particular amount of time. So, but after a few hours, it was resolved. Nothing was wrong. Maybe we lose a few bucks here and there. Well, yeah, you can say that. But also, if you see the evolution of these attacks, you see that they are becoming far much more cost ineffective in many ways. So ransomware attacks, for instance, consumerization of hacking, and consumerization of attacks in the cyber criminal world, it's really driven by the same principles as a normal market, basically. So these people, they're like us, they are trying to do business here. It's not about just fun. It's not about, doing this because they want to show themselves or they want to show their capabilities. This was the early years of hacking and, hackers like Kevin Mitnick or other guys that are really known. So now it's not about, showing what you can do and to research a particular technology. It's about money. It's about business. It's about making money. Cybercrime damages are estimated within the next few years to kind of reach the number of approximately $6.5 billion annually, which is a huge number. And that's why, this actually indicates how important this problem is. And this indicates, that really this problem is driven by market principles. It's not about, kind of a, young guy sitting in their basement and trying to do coding and stuff like that. It's about efficient machinery, delivering a product on the market. And this product, can be ransomware, right? It can be other forms, scareware, whatever. But the main objective here is to make money. And if you put the money into the equation, that's the dangerous part, because when everything is driven by market principles, this means that you have a competition, you have a quality assurance, We have all these things, and this makes the bad things even worse and improves them, because the customer wants better product. The customer wants improved solution, and the solutions are there and how much more profitable than compared, let's say, smuggling drugs and stuff like that. Far much more profitable, risk-free compared to that. So why should this concern me? Okay, we hear the same question for COVID pandemic in the beginning, right? Well, this happened somewhere in China. I don't care, right? I'm away. I'm living in US. I don't care about that. I don't know even where this, place Wuhan was, located, right? Some city in China, whatever. But you see how fast this actually spread it. Well, in cyber world, it's even funnier. And I've in quotes, malware can spread in a matter of minutes with the same intensity and the same impact everywhere in the globe. So imagine that you're living in a COVID pandemic in the cyber world, and this pandemic will never go away. It's there constantly and infecting more and more, systems every day, every minute. This is what the world that we're living in, and many people forget about this. And they say, okay, well, what can happen to me? Well, this is an example, and it's related to the recent pandemic, right? This is an example of, let's say, how technology is going to hurt us, right? Now there is a lot of a conspiracy theory going around, and it's interesting how the new technology is actually associated with these conspiracy theories. Like, you see that 5G networks are, related to COVID-19. They are related to a new world order and to the powers beyond our, let's say, control. And they're trying to enslave humanity and trying to, make obedient people everywhere. So using the smart technology, right? But this is a very interesting implication of smart technology. Well, and this trend continued to grow with the evolution of technology, which is kind of a counterintuitive, because you see, you have this, massive amount of information everywhere in social networks and everything. Everybody can now, spread something in the middle of minutes and seconds. You can spread the information. You can get access to information. But this information is not really useful anymore, because now, from one point, as we in the beginning of this presentation, we saw that new technology is quite, well received by the general public. They want to buy stuff, they want to put it in their homes, they want to make their life easier. But from the opposite direction, you see how people start to kind of, being afraid of this technology, start to feel fear of this technology. And of course, conspiracy theories cannot be disproven. You cannot possibly disprove any conspiracy theorists. It's impossible to ask. But 5G, it's like you being afraid of a light. That's the same thing, basically. That's it. But you cannot, explain this. You cannot, say that this is not a problem, because people will not understand. They believe whatever they want to believe. And we see that protests now, that never happened before, protests against 5G, right? And also Bill Gates, this guy, he invented the COVID-19 pandemic. He's the one to blame. As you can see here on the right square here, this is how they implant your chip into your body. And this was taken out of the context when Bill Gates was talking about digital certificates, when he was asked about how we should control the pandemic. And he was kind of trying to explain that if we use digital, certificates, we can use that in order to keep track of who is infected, who was vaccinated, or stuff like that. And somebody says, well, he wants to chip us, And the other reason that, for that kind of a trend, probably it's biohacking type of things, and, implanting RFID chips in the human body. This is a common thing now. So if you haven't done this, you just basically take a small chip, right? And you can implant with a needle into your hand, right? And you can use this as an access card or whatever in order to control, or you can open your vehicle or stuff like that. It's very convenient sometimes, but you have to physically inject this into your body. And, when you use this, different things and you put them together, you see that, you can end up with whatever theory you like. So smart technology now becomes more even dangerous, but from other perspectives as well. It's not about the technology itself, but also what comes with that. And this actually shows that we humans are not really ready to adopt technology properly. Because first of all, this is indication that people do not understand technology in any way. They're not supposed to know everything, but at least to understand the basics of how things works in this universe. It's something that you can learn in school, right? And the same example, this is just a side note. Instead, there is a new movement. It's not new, but kind of a growing movement of believers that the Earth is flat, and this keeps going and going. And this is the same type of a conspiracy theory, right? You cannot disprove that the Earth is flat, because whatever you say, they're gonna, end up of disputing everything with any bizarre explanation whatsoever. So this is, for me, indication that we do not understand what we're dealing with. We do not understand the basic principle of science. We cannot, even that basic. Well, my more interesting question is, who is spreading this nonsense? Is it just about a group of people somewhere in the world sitting in their basement and come up with these wild theories? Well, not really. Smart technology and technology by itself is used against us in many ways. And there are some interested groups and countries doing that, And there are various reasons. I don't want to lose time on that. But the common narrative is that Russia is behind all these things, really. Well, of course, this is debatable. But we cannot avoid seeing that particular countries are using social media and this type of theories as a kind of a form of propaganda, really. So I know it's not about believing conspiracy theory. It's about seeing the flow of information floating around the internet and how this information is used against specific countries and groups. Now, really, let's go back to the question: why should this concern me? Well, the question again I have to explain, but many times you feel this kind of something that doesn't actually, relates to you in any way, because it's a technology. You have a level of abstraction, right? And if this is not you, right? This is not you. This is your computer. If your computer get hacked, of course, they can expose your personal data, or your smart bubble, let's say, is hacked or whatever. Somebody can get access to your let's say, personal data again, but physical systems, security control systems, it's far much more dangerous because somebody can enter your home without your permission. There was a smart door that was used to survey kind of with the camera, because it has a camera inside to look what you're doing inside of your home and stuff, like to kind of harass you after that, do stuff, more and more interesting stuff. But people have generally this kind of a perception that it's something that's kind of will not happen to me, right? Whatever happens somewhere else, right? And COVID pandemic proves that again. Oh, my neighbor has it, but it's not going to affect me in some way. So that's what I want to make it some kind of a personal. I want to show my personal experience in this technology, understand how this affects everyday lives of people, right? And my particular, and to my child more specifically. So technology is so much more important than you can imagine. And I experienced that in my life quite dramatically. So that's one of my sons. It's called Zachary. He's 5 years old, and of course he likes cars. More particularly, he likes Lightning McQueen, more specifically, right? Well, now he's feeling all right. Everything is fine. But some years ago, on January 1st, 2016, this is how he was looking like in a hospital. It was kind of one of the most dramatic experiences in my life. And it wasn't really pleasant, so I'm going to skip that quite quickly. I don't want to remember that. I'm just showing that, to kind of share this experience. So the question was, what happened to my boy back then? He was quite healthy before that, nothing wrong, everything was fine. He was going fine. He was exactly a year and a couple of months old. On New Year's Eve, it was looking like a form of a flu or something, so we didn't My wife and me wasn't really particularly concerned, but this was keep going and going and going. He was not improving, and at some point, he was really, start to lose weight, and he wasn't look like a healthy baby anymore. He was looking like, a sick child. So we rushed to the hospital on the 1st of January. Almost nobody was working back then, but we went there and say, listen, let's take some blood samples and see what's going on. So they took that, and what ended up was that he has an extremely high level of blood sugar levels in his bloodstream. And of course, they said immediately, this is diabetes, right? And if you don't know, this is the international symbol of diabetes, the blue circle, right? And it's celebrated every year. And there are a lot of people with diabetes. This is specifically for type 1 diabetes. Well, probably most of you, know something about it. They heard this thing, it's called diabetes, right? Maybe you saw it in the movies. Maybe you heard that, a lot of people around the globe are suffering from type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. But type 1, it's kind of very different from type 2. And I was not aware of the differences back then. I was not really into this problem. And of course, I was thinking about the same way as I explained with technology. It doesn't affect me. Why I should care, right? I know that people are suffering from that, but it's something that's not related to me in any way. But on 1st of January 2016, I was forced very quickly to understand what's going on, because of course this was my job. So I needed to get into the details and understand what's going on. So type 1 diabetes, just a few words about that, is a problem of an immune system. So by the way, I was very rapidly going back in time, trying to figure out from kind of a biology how this works. And now I do a lot of research on that, on biochemistry. And actually it has a lot of interesting stuff. By the way, if you don't know, one of the most interesting description of biomechanical processes in your human bodies are described by IT people, because they look at the human body as a system of complex relations. And it's very fascinating, really fascinating. And this is one of the trends that are actually appearing now, in a kind of a union between biochemistry and IT and technology and IoT technology. We're going to talk about this later. So this actually represents the cell membrane horizontally, and these blue things are insulin receptors, right, on the membrane of the cell. Now, because of the COVID pandemic, we start to think about cells again and how the virus attaches to a specific, let's say, receptor on the cell membrane. Well, this is similar in nature. So these blue things are like arms. This yellow thing is the glucose molecule, right? Glucose molecule is produced by, in your human body, by your pancreatic cells. As soon as you eat the carbohydrate, it senses this in the bloodstream and releases insulin, produces insulin, and reduces insulin, releases insulin to the human, in the blood. And then it actually reaches the cells, and you have to touch this to the kind of a receptor. It's like a CNAC three-way handshake protocol in IT. It's the same thing basically. So CNAC. So this actually attaches to the receptor. Receptor moves physically. It's very interesting actually. Physically moves and opens the gate basically, and then the glucose molecules actually enters the cell and then is metabolized, and you get energy out of it. Well, the type 1 diabetes is a problem of immune system, as I said. So basically your immune system at some point decides that, well, the cells producing insulin are an enemy, and they are destroying these cells completely. So your immune system actually destroying that, and you cannot no longer produce insulin. If you don't have an insulin, you cannot metabolize sugar. glucose more specifically. And the glucose is an essential energy source for your human body. Well, fat also can be used for energy, and 80% can replace glucose. But you cannot live without glucose. You may need very little of it, but you cannot live without it. If you don't have it, the end result is, of course, painful and excruciating, condition. It's called ketoacidosis, and the result of this, if it's not treated, it's death, and you cannot survive. So that's why you have to inject insulin, right, from outside. So this is something that we have to do. If you're diabetic, you have to do this every day. Not every day. Every time you eat carbohydrate, you have to do that. And not only that, you have to inject some small quantities of insulin to maintain stable glucose level. Because if you have too much glucose from the other side, you can have problems. Because too much glucose in the blood means problem with your body, basically. So how we deal with that? So technology again comes to play here. That's what I said. Technology is so much more important than you think, and can affect your physical life in a very, very interesting way. So now I would like to make a point here is that smart technology, IoT, we'll call it whatever you like, physical cyber systems, whatever you want to call that. The difference between the IT and IoT is that with IoT, you have a safety problem. It's not only about computers anymore. You have a safety problem, which means somebody can get hurt or can die if this technology is compromised. So that's the big difference between IoT, OT, cyber physical systems, and your computer. Well, you can debate that if your computer is plugged into a very important network, if get compromised, this network can be broken down. Yes, sure. But if it's unplugged, nothing bad will happen. You can shut down something. Again, it's a debate that we can have. But these systems, physical systems that are attached to your human body, they are vital for your survival, literally. So as you can see, this is, by the way, called diabetic cyborg, because you use technology to maintain your systems, critical systems, your metabolism. So you have this is a modern version of insulin pump here on the left-hand side. You see it looks like kind of a smartphone or something, but it's not really. Inside you have a capsule with insulin, and this is attached physically with a needle to your body. So you have to replace this every 3, 4, 5 days, whatever. And this actually has integrated sensor. It's called continuous glucose monitoring system. So again, it's another sensor attached to your body somewhere. And this actually measures the level of glucose in your blood every 5 minutes, let's say. And these readings are kind of transmitted to a smart app or directly into the insulin pump via Bluetooth normally, or radio frequency transmission. And so that's in this 6.6 millimoles per liter. This actually, it's European kind of a measurement. It says how much glucose you have in the blood. If you have too much of that, you have to inject insulin. If you have too low, you have to eat something sweet, something sugary, let's say, in order to increase the amount of sugar. If you don't do that, I'm going to show what's going to happen. So this technology is quite vital and important. If you don't have this technology, my boy will die, very simply. Well, of course, you can bring him to the hospital, they can save him, but sometimes this is not feasible. You can have a situation in which this is not really okay. So this technology, insulin pump, actually it has kind of a, let's say, this capsule. So it releases, it's like an injection, basically. So say, I want one, let's say, unit of insulin to be injected. So you put in the kind of the gram of carbohydrate eaten, and you put the current glucose levels, and it calculates the amount of insulin needed, injects it in the hand, and everything is fine, right? And of course, I have a mobile phone on the right-hand side with the mobile app that keeps track of that. I have it on my watch. I have it everywhere. I can see it in my car, so I can know exactly what's going on, right? A few years ago, it was not possible. A few years ago, this was only with injection and kind of a pricking finger type of glucose meters, right? Quite inconvenient, especially for kids. Well, the problem with this is that everything can be hacked. But the consequences of that hack is something that can kill somebody. And let's see how this actually can happen, right? These are the two specific vulnerabilities described in as a CVEs. Oh, I'm sorry, too fast. Just a second. So two CVEs from 2018 related to exploitation of these devices, insulin pumps. So the end result is exploitation of these vulnerabilities may allow attacker, and I'm quoting here, to replay captured wireless communications and cause an insulin or so-called bolus delivery to your system, I mean, human body. So it may sound strange for you because you're not probably dealing with that on every day, but you know, this is quite common for every diabetic in this planet. So what is actually this means, technically speaking? So let's see here. So this is an example of technology. There are a lot of insulin pumps and vendors that are producing that. They're just a specific example of this one. It's called, this is Medtronic device. Medtronic is a globally recognized manufacturer of this type of medical technology. So we have some sort of a key fob here. There's actually a remote control for bolus delivery. Again, bolus delivery, you think about this as an injection of insulin. That's what it is, a bolus. Press, inject. This is how it looks. It's like using your hands basically to inject insulin. This is how it works. So we have a quick bolus delivery. So it's with the ACT button here, you just press it and it releases insulin immediately, right? There is the insulin pump that my boy was using. We replaced with another technology. It doesn't matter really. They operate in almost in the same way. So this is the insulin pump. As you can see, it have the same. I'm not going to explain all the buttons on there. So we have a radio frequency transmission, low frequency. So to communicate with the insulin pump, I say, listen, dear pump, release insulin. That's what it does. And again, this pump is connected with the tube physically to your body with a needle. It's kind of a sticking to your body all the time. So, okay, so let's see how this can be exploited really and see how this actually can be compromised. So for that specific reason, and I have one in my home for other, not only for this experimentation, but for other purposes as well. We can open your doors with that, whatever low frequency can be experimented with this device called ERSTIC1 from Hack5. Maybe you heard these guys, they're producing really interesting technology. So this is a sub-1 gigahertz kind of a, let's say, capture, replay, you know, experiment type of device, right? So you can plug into your computer and you can start listening to the radio frequencies around yourself, your home. So again, you have this same key fob here. You see the pump here. And then, of course, this transmission can be captured with this device. It can be decoded. If you ask me how it's protected, it's not protected. It's not encrypted. So it's kind of a trivial to be, you know, decoded in real time. So it's not really something complex here. No security in this transmission. It's not like, you know, today's internet. So again, so you have this communication, let's say bolus, which is injection of insulin. You can capture that and can replay it. Or not just replay it, but you want to, let's say, modify that. Instead of injecting 1 unit, you can inject 2 units. It doesn't sound really dangerous, but believe me, it's quite dangerous because if you suddenly have a lot of insulin in your body, your brain will shut down, basically. That actually what happens. So, how this actually was achieved, right? Well, the insulin pump, as you can see from the right-hand side, it has a serial number. And in order to identify this pump, you need to find, in order to communicate, this is the only security that it has. You have to know the serial number of the pump. But this is quite easy to capture as traffic, as information flying over the radio. So you can easily brute force even the known numbers. You can have a brute force technique used here in order to find the correct number of this insulin pump. And this can, by the way, this can happen from quite a distance if you have the right antenna in place. So you have to be very close to that as well. So the only thing that you have to brute force is the serial number of this device. And from then on, it's a child's play, basically. Nothing serious here. So this is just a screenshot of the application used to, with the yardstick one specifically. So as you can see, you have this, let's say, sync bits, frequency that was used, and you have this, messages for activate bolus and stop the insulin pump. Again, this is very, very easy to do, really. No security whatsoever. Anyway, so the amount needed to your brain to shut down, basically, to get into coma is 1 millimole per liter. A quite small amount of glucose in your blood. But if this happens, basically your neuron system will not work. You end up in a coma, and if you don't take measures, you die. So low glucose is far much more dangerous than high glucose, because in the high glucose situation, you need approximately a couple of weeks to get really in a bad shape. But with this can happen in a matter of, let's say, minutes, not, let's say, hour or something like that, especially this young kid. And you go. So with this application, it may sound really funny, but you can, basically you can harm somebody. Well, probability of this, somebody to die from this attack is not really high, because of course we have a medical, we can respond quickly to this situation. With one simple injection for glucagon, it's another hormone that actually increases the amount of sugar. This can have immediate effect and can really bring somebody very quickly to normal, just with small injections. So it's not, immediate death or something like that. So it can be treated in certain circumstances. But if you're somewhere distant without access to this, can really have a dramatic effect on this person. This is a quote from the manufacturer, basically. It was actually presented with this technique. By the way, although these are medical devices, they need certification and approvals, this doesn't mean that they cannot modify, especially when we're talking about cybersecurity. So there is a common misconception that medical devices cannot be upgraded easily because they are controlled type of equipment. Well, for cybersecurity, that's not the case. The manufacturer can easily change the system if they see a critical issue and vulnerability like this one to be addressed. Of course, this was addressed, but there are other problems, of course. So as you can see, all devices carry some associated risk. Well, to you, this may sound kind of okay. That sounds all right. Some associated risk. For me, for my son, that sounds not really great, right? So there is a big difference between, experiencing something and hearing about something, right? This is something really different. And this is very formal, but for me, it's a matter of life in that situation, right? So like the regulation, we continuously strive to balance the risk against the benefits our devices provide. What benefits? Come on, me. The benefit is to be alive, right? That's the most important benefit of all. Another example, because of this risk, let's say, it's another technology from the same manufacturer. There is an interesting article in Wired magazine, I can check it out. It's about a pacemaker injected in your body. The pacemaker keeps your heart rhythm properly. Otherwise, of course, you can have a heart attack and die. And this technology has kind of a, it's not injecting, but kind of releases kind of a small electricity in order to keep the rhythm steady. So this again was hacked and was, of course, posted. This was highly publicized recently. So you can kill somebody with, again, the similar technique as I showed you before. So you see, it's not really trivial thing, isn't it? Well, if you don't have this pacemaker injected in your body, then you think about, oh, right, okay, somebody can die. Well, yeah, but if this is your relative, you start thinking this in a different perspective. So it's not that funny anymore. It's not about smart faucet or smart whatever. It's about human existence, about human life, which is the most important thing, of course. So this was again trivial security issue. Without proper protection, it was possible to hack this system and to shut down or kind of release a high volt, a different amount of electricity. You can stop the heart and kill somebody. There are some other examples of hacking this medical monitoring system, which are used in hospitals to kind of show vital information about the vital, let's say, measurement of your body, rhythms, heart rate, whatever. This can be compromised. They can display false information on the screen, and the doctor can inject different medicine and can kill somebody again. So that was also experimented and proved that this can be hacked. Again, everything on this planet can be hacked, right? So this is just to show where things are heading. Forget about conspiracy theories. Let's talk about something that will happen in the future without being, talking about these bullshit theories, right? Sorry, my language. So it's about what we are seeing as technology evolving every day. So this piece of hardware here it looks like a strange robotic arm or something like that. This actually is a machine injecting electrodes in your brain. And this technology is developed by our friend, Elon Musk, more specifically. The company is called Neuralink. And this company is dedicated to develop a brain-computer interface, the proper one, because we have now this all over the place. I have one in my home, which is not using any injection technology. It just reads the brain waves. It's not really efficient, so it doesn't work well. But this one, the idea is to inject directly electrodes into the human, brain, inside of the brain. It's like a surgical operation, basically. And the idea is to be able to have enough number of electrodes in order to read the neural code. That's not a trivial thing to do, definitely. But they achieved great things with this technology. There was in 2019, there was a presentation of Neuralink, quite interesting. I recommend you to check it out. This on YouTube channels. You see the presentation. It's kind of a couple of hours long. How this technology is evolving and what they are trying to achieve here. Initially, this is intended to solve medical problems with disabilities and stuff like that. But the end game is to develop efficient computer brain interface. And because Elon Musk said that, well, our hands are too slow, basically, and our interaction with technology is too slow. So we need a better interface. We need a faster interface, basically our thoughts and neuron waves in order to control technology. And this also goes to another direction, which is integration with artificial intelligence, basically. Quite fascinating. We don't have time for that, but this is another topic that can be explored properly. Kind of uniting human brain with artificial intelligence. And this is not a science fiction. It's not conspiracy theory. It's quite real thing, really. So this technology injects, and then of course we have a smart technology in place. You can, sorry, just a second. Then you can use your mobile app to program and to do whatever you want. Thinking about something that happens at the moment you think about it, right? That's why we're heading for. As you can see, this interface is ready for mobile phones. This technology is not done yet, but now we have at least UI, UX for the mobile phone application, right? So quite ready for prime time, if you ask me. But there is a long road ahead. It's not going to happen very easily. There are so many challenges with the human body. But this is again something that I want to make a point here, that now one of the most modern application of IoT technology, smart technology, cyber physical systems, is integration with the human body, basically. And again, this is not conspiracy. It's about real thing. It's about improving human, health. It's about improving human abilities. It's making our lives easier, right? Medical, from other perspective as well. It's not only about medical problems. So you see, these technologies are evolving rapidly, and it's not about things anymore. It's about how we as humans will interact with this technology in our daily lives, and how we are gonna benefit, or maybe not benefit, but suffer from that. Because the more we are integrating this with us, physically speaking, the more exposed we became to cyber attacks. And ethical hacking, in general, it's about protection and kind of exploitation of these vectors of attack in order to protect that system. So break it to fix it, that approach. That's what we're trying to do here with these modern things, right? But it's essential because people are not thinking about security. They are thinking about what they want to achieve. They have a vision like Elon Musk. He wants to send people on Mars. He doesn't think about radiation and other issues, how people are going to die on this planet. He's thinking about the end game, the objective. I want to bring people to Mars, or I want to achieve this with this. I want to control my computer with my thoughts. That's great, but security should be part of this process all the time, from the conception to the end product, and not only with the whole life cycle of this product or whatever there is. You need to have security in place. Otherwise, somebody can die or something bad can happen. Anyway, so security quite important. So ethical hacking is about looking into these flaws, looking at these problems, and suggesting fixes or suggesting improvements, suggesting things that can make things better or more secure in that sense. Modern evolution, digital revolution is not possible without security. Security is should be integral part of every business strategy, because if you want to evolve, you want to make your business more efficient with technology, you cannot do it with unsecure technology. Consequences can be devastating. So some lessons that I learned from my son, basically, and this experience that I had. First of all, and I can apply the same principles for ethical hacking, basically. There are 4 basic principles that I follow in my life. First of all, you have to know your weaknesses. And this sounds very simplistic, but can be quite complex in a way. Because knowing your weaknesses means know everything that you are touching with your fingers or whatever you have access to as information. So you have to know your weaknesses in the context of the technology that you're using. Even with your physical system as a whole, you have to understand how your body works, at least. But forget about it, let's talk about technology. But you have to understand that your interaction with the digital world can be quite complex and can have many applications in various directions. Not my specific case that I show. It's quite specific. I understand that. But no matter how you interact with technology, you leave your footprint everywhere. You interact with these things. They keep data of yourself. Your digital self lives in the internet in various places. So you have to be extra cautious, extra careful of what you're doing and how you're protecting your digital self. So you have to understand the weaknesses of this process, the system that you're using, the way they can be compromised, and so on and so forth. And another important part is to keep up with the speed. With these things, the speed is of the essence. We learn in the university, in schools, things that are not relevant anymore in our digital world. They're so outdated. There's so many new technologies coming to play. There are so many new things appearing every day in our society. You can see from COVID pandemic how quickly things can change. But people are thinking about this now because this is threatening their lives. But physical, digital systems, as I said, we are in this pandemic all the time. We see this problem every time, every day, every minute, and we do not think about it. This is maybe an effect of let's say fatigue. Let's say we have a digital fatigue, and we don't want to think about this, but we have to, because things are changing fast. We as a professionals, as cybersecurity experts, we have to keep up with the speed. We have to understand the problem in order to help solve that problem. But the problem is, as you can see, it's not only about computers, it's not about servers or web applications anymore. Of course, they're part of that, obviously. But in order to solve the problem, you have to understand it first. You have to understand the technology that actually you're trying to test or cyber hack or whatever you want to do with that. In order to see the weaknesses, you have to understand the way it works. That's the only way around. The problem is there are too many things now, and we cannot possibly cover everything. But at least we have to try to understand your environment, understand the things that you are surrounded with, and to understand how this can affect your life or your business or your friends or family. That's what you have to do, basically. So keeping with the speed, you have to adapt really, really fast. If you're too slow to react, it doesn't really matter. If you see something is not right, if you see there is a problem, you have to quickly adapt yourself to this new environment, to this problem. You have to solve it quickly, or you have to adapt to this new normal very quickly. Many people believe that the profession of the future, there is not going to be any profession of the future. It's going to be constant kind of a flux of things that you have to do. And you have to change who you are and reinvent yourself almost every day. The only sure certain thing in our digital future is change. So there is not going to be a profession of the future. Well, cybersecurity is always going to be part of our future, but definitely we cannot just say, listen, we have to invest in this specific thing, really. Not anymore. And one more recommendation, you have to be passionate. If you don't like what you're doing, don't do it. Find something else that you are passionate about. Because if you're not passionate, you will not see the problem. You see something because you have to. You try to hack something because this is your job. But if you're not passionate about it, you cannot see the details. You cannot see the overall picture. You're gonna stay at a specific level of expertise. You're not gonna be progressing too much, because without a passion, there is no meaning of doing something whatsoever. And some useful things, links for the OT that you can use to explore further this topic, because we do have some standards, we do have some guidelines related to IoT security more specifically. This was released 2019, Cloud Security Alliance. I strongly recommend this source, not only for IoT, but cloud security as well, as you know, guess from this title. Cloud Security Alliance, IoT Security Controls Framework. This is a really good guideline of how to properly secure IoT technology and what are the main risks that you have to address and what kind of controls you implement in order to solve that problem in a particular way. And you have also something to read to how to properly or recommendation for IoT firmware update process, because this is also kind of a very ambiguous in a way, very difficult to do sometimes. So you need a proper guideline for that. So I recommend this one as well. Another interesting topic, it's about how to use blockchain technology to secure Internet of Things. As you can see, modern technology, modern protection technologies like blockchain can be utilized quite efficiently. And again, very interesting reading. And of course, OWASP Top 10, Internet of Things from 2018. You know, OWASP, what actually it's used for. So go ahead, explore. Of course, there is a not really completely finished as recommendations or as guidelines, but there is a good mapping between 2014 and 2018. Internet of Things Top 10 problems with IoT from OWASP. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your time. And I think that this topic is just too big to be covered in 1 hour, but I hope at least I kind of sparked some interest in some more different perspective why IoT is not only purely technical in nature. But just to finish with this, in order, there's something that I said earlier, in order to fix things, you have to break them. So ethical hacking is about breaking things. It's about understanding the problems and the flaws. So ethical hacking can be quite interesting and fascinating. And that's why companies like CCSeCoE are really important in a way how we can start to think about this problem, to educate ourselves and to become more and more, let's say, informed about, the aspects of security, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is something really huge. So we definitely need guidelines. We need trainings. We need something to get us started. So CSeCoE has a really interesting career path you can follow. And ethical hacking is something that you can start with and progressively go through this. But again, one recommendation, no training on that plan can learn you everything. It's about experiencing things. It's about doing things. It's not just about learning things. But it's always good to have a good starting point and some kind of a guideline that can guide you through this process. And, save you some time, because as I said, time is something that we don't have. And with this problem that we see everywhere, time is really important. As much as we can save it, it's great. So save some time. and with trainings, you'll be able to progress more quickly. So again, thanks for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be delighted to hear them.